I have in front of me here a 2.1mm DC jack with a terminal block on the end. So basically we have the jack on this end, which you can see. I've just rotated slightly. We have a terminal block here. So why would we be using this? Well, basically we'll be using it for if we're transferring power along a Cat5 cable, it would terminate here, and then we would use this socket here to push into a camera to provide power from it, from a remote power unit. So what would we use it in conjunction with? Well, basically we would use it with this 2.1mm socket here, which will be taking power from a power unit and then converting it and running it along through a Cat5 cable, such as here. Okay, so that provides the ability to run again via Cat5 cable normally from a power unit over a Cat5 cable to a camera and provide power to the camera. Now normally also of course you'd be running a picture from the camera back to, we will say, a TV monitor or a DVR, and you can do this also through a Cat5 cable. And you'd use something like this balun here, which takes in a BNC input from the camera, and then once again has a terminal block on the back of it. And the reason I'm showing this in conjunction with is normally we would do this in the same Cat5 cable. So let's look at the component parts that make this up. Let's look at a pre-assembled cable we've done this with, and then I'll show you the demonstration that's actually working on a TV. So what we have here is we have, first of all, a power unit. Okay, in this case it's a 12 volt DC 1 amp output. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll come along and we use this 2.1mm socket here, we push it in and we can provide power here and run it through a Cat5 cable that would be attached onto this terminal block. And on the far end what we'll do is we'll come along and we use the actual jack here now, the 2.1mm jack with a terminal block on the end. So it takes in the power from the Cat5 and runs it to power the actual cable. Right, so what I'm going to do at this point is I'm just going to look at a cable that I've made up already. So what I've done here is I actually have a Cat5 cable. Okay, so if you look at how a Cat5 cable is made up, I cut a length of Cat5 cable to the length we required, and I cut the outer sheet off for about 5 centimeters. Okay, and inside then what we have is we have 4 twisted pairs, so a total of 8 cables, and they come in 4 basic colors: blue, brown, green and orange, with white offsets of each of those also available. Okay, so we can use each of those to either carry power or picture along them. So what we see here is, what I've done in this particular case is I've used the blue cables here, the blue pair for running the power. So we have the socket at one end, and I have the plus cable using blue, and the plus cable using blue and white, and the minus cable using blue. And what I do in the far end then is I just keep exactly the same thing. So what we have here is, if we look at the blue and white here, it'll once again be going to the plus, and the minus cable will be using the blue. Okay, so we're consistent on that. So I'm just going to show how it actually fit this block on. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this green pair here, just to give a demonstration of how it actually fit on this socket here. So if we look here at the socket, what I can do is I'm just going to push the terminal block on here. Let's just push the actual cable in here. So you can see it's in but not locked in position. And now I use a Phillips screwdriver, very fine one, and I just rotate this. It's not easy to see. Just rotate it, and it just locks it into position. So now we have this actually locked in. So that's on the positive cable. So what I want to make sure then, on the far end of this, when I'm connecting in here, then once again we're using the positive on the green, and then reserve the minus for the green and white. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do now is we have this cable pre-terminated. The other interesting thing to note is that I've used the orange cables in this particular example for the BNC connections. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'll just hop up for a second, and I'm just going to use the socket here first of all to take power from the power unit here. So we just push it in like this, we run it to the far end, and now we have the output in terms of the power supply coming here, and we push it in like that. So now we actually have power from this power unit coming through the Cat5 cable, coming out through our 2.1mm DC jack here, and providing power to the camera itself. Okay, the next thing is actually take the picture from the camera. So we attach the balun like this, and run down along, and on the far end of the ballon will actually come along and we connect it up to our TV. So now we can see the camera that's currently pointing at the ceiling. Okay? So if I just grab this camera and point it towards myself here, you can see here that I have it there, and I just rotate the angle around to get myself properly. Okay, that's it anyway. So you can see anyway it worked quite well. So you might see, we'll say, on the particular demonstration I've done, I've just used one Cat5 cable on each side here, okay? Now this is because normally we'll say this is more than sufficient, because if you have a relatively low arm pitch, which most cameras are, and even over a relatively long distance, 40 to 50 meters, one cable is more than enough to provide the DC power required. If you had very large cameras over very long distance runs, then it would be necessary to use maybe not just one pair, but two pair or maybe four pairs for running the power to the thing. But as I said, in most setups this is not required. So it means that we can have quite a lot of power supplies being supplied through a single Cat5 cable. So that's it anyway, an overview of the 2.1 millimeter DC jack that's available on the tvtray.ie website.